Hey there, in this video I'm building the little wagon that goes alongside Moonmirth House. It was such an important piece that I couldn't skip it, and it took so long to make I had to do another video, so I hope you enjoy the intermittent wagon. I start out this little project with foam core board and cardboard. I leave the paper on when I'm cutting it out, just so it doesn't snap when I'm cutting it. Normally I'd peel it off first, but not in this case because it's fragile. I just mark out the boards into the soft foam. And then very lightly I can just run a pencil up and down it and make the grain in the wood and some little knots as well, and it gives a really nice, quite realistic wood effect. Make sure the corrugations of your cardboard are running along the roof so you can bend it later. It'll give it a nice curve. I just used a pen to make a really hard impression of a zigzag pattern into the roof. It'll give it a nice matte, like a reed matte kind of appearance. Both sides of the roof are mirror image, so they fit perfectly together to make a nice even roof. Give it a spray, and the little awning that comes off the side of the roof as well, the same process as the main part. These are just all little pieces of trim that'll go all over the wagon. I just do the same process with all things that are wooden. I give them some ink as a stain, and then I will paint them a little lighter with some browns and whites. And in this case I did some different colours as well, with some yellows and reds, just so there was a difference between the trim and the actual body of the wagon. That piece has only been stained, it hasn't been lightened yet, but you can see where it's going to sit, and this is the colour I put on to lighten these different pieces. When you put this paint on, it looks a lot heavier than it is, but the foam absorbs quite a bit of it, and it absorbs the colour with it when it dries. So when you put it on, don't worry about it looking too heavy, but also don't try and put too much on. You'll lose all those little lines that have been created. So just do a second coat if you're worried about it not being light enough. I gave the roof just a base coat, which is similar to that of the body. But I put quite a few colours on the roof because of the pattern. Trying to replicate a reed matte is difficult, so I wanted to confuse the eye. So I did almost like a camouflage pattern, which I'll add heavier zigzagging to it later and an edge, and it draws your eye away from mistakes and inconsistencies in the zigzagging pattern, which in the end gives it more of a realistic look. It's kind of, if you can't convince them, confuse them, and it works well. I just lighten it up, darken it up, fiddle around with it until it's got a nice natural look about it. Once the little banners are over the top of it, it'll look quite realistic. It came out well. Just add all the little pieces of trim. There were so many of these. I had to keep making more and more of them. I undershot how many I actually needed. Lucky they're easy to make. I gave them the same treatment I do with all the little wooden pieces, cream and a dark pencil as well, just to give it some age, make it look a bit dirty. Pencils are great. Piece of good paper for the door frame. The banners or the carpet or whatever you'd call them are really simple. It's really good paper. Just cut it to shape, then give it a quick stain with ink, and then I just used a Sharpie and some pencils, and they were really nice and easy to make. Very, very quick to make as well. I just gave it a heavy layer of this red. I'd take a little more time to do this if I wasn't doing it under a camera, but it's just the general idea. Nice, quick, easy edging. Draw the pattern in and then just put some heavier detailing into it. Just sort of adds a bit of depth as well. A bit of black pencil does well with this peach coloured pencil over the top. It doesn't come out as a peach colour once you put it on top of the red, which is what you want, but it gives it almost like a worn pattern into what's meant to be fabric, so it works quite well. Really nice and quick and easy, and they came out really good. They're quite effective looking. They don't look exactly like fabric, but it's close enough. I used more good paper, nice thick heavy paper. It's almost like cardboard for the ridge of the roof. 2 exact pieces, so they sit either side. Give them a quick stain, and then some gold on top of that. And I used a pencil to score a pattern into it, and it came out really nice, and it was almost like a thin strip of foam after those couple of layers of paint. Being such good paper, the impression was impressive. Some more of this paint that goes along with every other part of this build. It's a red ochre, just a nice natural red, and this black I put on just to add some depth. It's not greatly necessary, but it's just to help it look a little more three-dimensional, being a drawn object instead of a sculpted object. I made the wagon wheels out of polymer clay because it was the easiest solution I could come up with after trying to make it out of different materials. So I just rolled it out to a nice even thickness, and then I just cut it to the right width and length, and I was able to just run it around a piece of cardboard that I'd previously cut to use as a wheel, but they just were so uneven I didn't stick with it. And I wrapped it around these little pieces of cardboard, and then I was able to pop it into the oven and bake it, and then remove the cardboard after it had become hard, and then I had my wagon wheels. I just drew a circle down so I knew that each one would be exactly the same. And I made the spokes out of some coffee stirrers that I'd sliced as fine as I could get them. They came out fairly good for a first attempt. Don't know if I'd ever want to make them again though. Gave them a coat of black acrylic paint and then a coat of brown. I drew up the wagon's undercarriage just to make it a simple job because I had no idea what I was doing. So I just plonked it down to make sure I got the exact size so I wouldn't make the pieces too big or too small. And then I just drew them up where they needed to be, made sure that the wheels would be correct size alongside. I just cut one piece from each. I didn't need more than one because I'll just flip it over and it'll be an exact match, like a template. I find it's the best way to do things. I get much better, more even results. I just cut them out, and that was that. The top one I've made from balsa wood, the bottom from cardboard, because I'm just wary of cutting anything out of balsa wood that has a curve on it, because you hit the grain and it splits, and that's the end of that chapter. But I found I didn't have any real troubles with this, which was fortunate. I just glued it all on and painted it again with that same red, and then I dirty it up with a bit of brown. I end up going over virtually everything with a bit of darkened brown or lighter brown, black, some brown ink, because you want to dirty everything up. It just gives a more uniform look and it gives age, which adds more realism. The wagon hook and back details, I drew them up on paper so I could just make sure that it would be the right size before I went and wasted time drawing it up on the wood and carving it out to make sure it was correct. Plus, after doing that, I could just use it as a template on the wood and then draw it up and carve it from there. There's so many curves on this. I was surprised it didn't split every time I ran a blade down it. I had to use every weapon in my arsenal for this one, but it came out fairly good. After cutting the hook out, I basically just used some sandpaper to sculpt the shape that I wanted. Get those nice round edges. A little bit more darkening around the spokes and the wheels. Those wheels look a bit wonky. I double baked them in the oven, foolishly trying to get some glue to dry. So yeah, don't do that. Aside from adding the little bits of golden trim at the back and a little seat that was made for the driver of the wagon too, this is pretty much it. It was a neat little project to make. It was fiddly, but it was fun. And that's my little Khajiit wagon from Elder Scrolls Online. I think it'll look great once it's alongside Moonmirth House. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I enjoyed making it. It was fun. And yeah, I'll see you next time.